Hello, everyone. How we doing? Hello, Zach. Hello, Sally's back. Sarah's back. It doesn't feel like it's been a couple of hours, but it has. I had some dinner, which was nice. Sorted my hair out. So it now actually sits on my head rather than just dangling in front of my eyes. Hello, Purple Climber. How are you doing? Are we ready for already? Just love this weekend. Friday, throwing us straight in. Competitive session in front of us. A sprint shootout. I know it's got called the shootout anymore, but I did like the whole sprint shootout thing. And also, it means that the thumbnail is different to qualifying. I can't call it qualifying when this is qualifying. There's another qualifying. I liked the whole shootout thing that they kind of kept, so I've gone with it. Hello, Space Boo. Hello, Greta. Hello, Lofi is here as well. Golden symbol next to Lofi now. Got to be close to that next one, I think. Pretty damn close, although some big membership / Patreon stuff. I know lots of you have been members just because of the kindness of your heart. Thanks to hitting 100k, I've kind of clicked into gear a little bit. I've decided to take a little step, which I haven't actually talked about. I've decided to take a little step and a gamble on making a little bit more content. I'm working full time, but I'm only going to work an 80% contract, which is 4 out of 5 days. For those of you not great at your conversions from percentages to fractions. So I will now have a day of the week that I can dedicate to this. Only if it can fill that gap of the 20%, nearly 25% of my earnings that I'll lose out on. So I'm going to roll the dice on that. And I feel like that's been, because I've hit 100k, I've decided to dedicate a little bit to that. So there will be more members stuff coming, a little bit of a push on members. And there will also be more things coming in the future. Although Tomo just, said that he's going to launch his one. So I was like, right, can't do that the same weekend that he is. So I'm going to give it a few weeks. If you know, you know. Hello, Alex, mate. Sprint weekends are the best. I love sprint weekends. I think 6 is enough, though. A quarter of the season. It's about the right kind of ratio. I don't want them to be every single weekend. I think that would be too much. Maybe like between a quarter and a third of the season. I'm quite happy with. Didn't even know it was a sprint weekend. Oh, you've got some. There's 3 in the last 6 races. There's only 6 in the whole season. They very much pushed them all towards the back end. Austin, Brazil, Qatar. Be there, be square. Also, you should have known it's sprint weekend. Over on the community tab, I release a little schedule for everybody. Should put it in your calendar. I'm going to be live here at these times during the weekend. And I put 5 times on there. 5 times we're live this weekend. And a podcast at the end of it. With a guest. Finally. Had to do like 2 on my own because the guests just dropped out towards the last couple of minutes. But finally we have a guest. I believe in him. I don't think he's going to drop out. Absolute legend of a man. Demon001. Hello, mate. How are we feeling? But yeah, that's a little bit of news. Don't know why I've come out with that. I think it's because it's late now. I have been up since sort of 7 a.m., 6:45, that kind of time. Done a full day at work. So worked 8:30 till 4:30. Got home. Smashed it. And then come in. Done the pre-race and free practice 1. Because they ended up being at the same time. And then jumped into the next one. What's the podcast called? It is going to be called The Turning Point. Because I think that's a good play on words. So the turn in, like turn in, TURN-IN, like you're turning in to a corner. But also, it kind of sounds like the turning point. So we can talk about, what was the turning point for their season? What's the turning point for Ferrari? Was it the summer break? Probably. What was the turning point for Mercedes? Also the summer break. That kind of thing. Please post a new video. I posted a video 2 days ago. Oh, Gwats. Gwats, yeah, you post a new video. Unbelievable. No, I don't know. I don't know when you last posted. I haven't checked. Wish there were more sprints. Interesting. Short form goat of F1. Thank you. Try the long form. The most recent long form video is doing very well. And as I said, I have just taken a big financial risk. So if we could, sounds like tune in. Yes. I mean, I can't help that. But I wanted it to be a little bit different. I'll be honest, it is very much inspired by James Lawrence Alcott and The Ripple Effect, which is a football podcast. And the ripple effect, like none of those words have anything to do with football. So I was like, we can get away with it not being super Formula One based. I didn't want to call it like on track because that's Taron. I didn't want to call it like in the pit lane. Just wasn't for me. So I decided turn in point. But I'll get there. Here in Norway, 1 hour later. Cool. A full day plus another hour. Not for me, I'm afraid. I'm very much going to bed after this. I'm very much going to bed after this. I'm very much looking forward to it. But we will do this first and foremost. Good. Want to tune in to turn in? There we go. Sarah, do you want a job? People love the simulation videos? Yeah, not sure. Not sure why. They seem to do bits. I've had a few videos do fairly well, though. The analysis video of Lando Norris versus Max Verstappen and how many points McLaren should have versus don't have. That went really well. Some other ones have got, like, I kind of aim for 10,000 views. Why are we talking so much inside baseball today? Doesn't matter. I aim for like 10,000 views on the long form. That's a good video for me. And considering a year ago, 1,000 views was a good video for me. That's a big jump. Like, you know, a good video for me now is 10 times bigger than what it was a year ago. Like a year ago, I would have been looking for 1,000 views per video. And if a video ticked over 1,000 views, I'd have been buzzing. Now the aim is 10,000. That's how the channel has developed. And that's insane to me. Like, that's absolutely amazing. And that's why even sometimes when a video doesn't hit that 10,000 goal, which I do kind of set for myself, I'm still like, it's still a hell of a lot better than it was a year ago. So you got to kind of take those little bits and pieces as they come and go. You know what I mean? But yeah, very, very inside baseball start to this podcast. not sure why we're talking every single aspect. It's just like, I don't know, that's where I feel like my channel is at. Like, if Tomo got my kind of views, he'd probably off himself. Nah, he just wouldn't be very happy about it. But to be honest, I know, to be fair, the Red Bull dominance is over video. That's got 13k, so that's a tick. The McLaren prioritizing Lando Norris changes nothing video. So close, 9.5k. Not quite there. Daniel Ricciardo one, wasn't expecting to do amazingly because everybody did a Daniel Ricciardo video. The Lando Norris video did well. Final transfers of the 2025 season did well. Every F1 team's mid-season. We've just been doing amazingly well recently. We've only had 2 videos in the last few. Oh, the Adrian Newey video. Absolute flop. But again, everyone did an Adrian Newey video. And also, I didn't really like that thumbnail. So that was on me. It was a bit rushed, that one. It was a little bit rushed. The Adrian Newey video has been a bit of a flop. Maybe the McLaren mistakes one. Also a bit of a flop. Apart from that, it's been pretty great on the channel since the turn of the year, really. I'm very happy for all of these from about... Yeah, they're all hovering around that kind of 10k. Few over, few under. You know what I mean? But there. Talking about YouTube. Fair enough, fair enough. studying other F1 creators. There you go. Well, let me know what you get. I do like doing a little study of creators. I also do that sometimes. You just get yourself in a little bit of a hole, don't you? Like, well, let's delve into the analytics of this YouTube creator. And it can get very, very quick. Learn more from the flops, from the bangs. Exactly. Exactly. Anyhow, talking of that, because we kind of covered the news, gossip, and scandal of the Formula One grid a little bit earlier on. I was going to give you guys an opportunity to kind of break down the most recent video. So if you haven't seen it, I did 100 simulations on the F1 24 game. Little bit of kind of adjusting. Quality is on in about 15, 20 minutes. 18 minutes in the middle of those. And I basically put together the... That's so low. Oh, it's because I swapped it, isn't it? Let me just transform this very quickly. There you go. So I did a simulation. Not going to quite fit, is it? Oh, well. Did a simulation of the final 6 races of the season, including sprint races, to try and determine who would be the World Drivers' Champion, but also put into perspective kind of the groups, the battles that we should be looking out for over the last 6 races. So there's kind of a bottom 3. I feel like that's fairly obvious. You know, you're looking at Joe, Sargent, Bottas. Not a lot's going to happen there. There was an insane season where Bottas managed to pick up a 10th place finish, or 2 insane seasons where Bottas managed to finish in 10th place. It was an absolute chaos race. Like, I didn't go into too much detail because I wanted to move on in the video, but it was just a ridiculous race. It was a little bit kind of hungry when Ocon won-esque, where there was a huge crash at the beginning of it. It was the Qatar Grand Prix. About 7 drivers were wiped out in the beginning. So Valtteri Bottas finished 10th, but it was out of about 12 drivers. So, like, he did that in a couple of occasions. So, managed to bump himself up there. Interesting that Joe never scored a point. Like, in none of the simulations at any point did Joe score. So, that was kind of it. Then we had a little bit of a kind of back end of the gridness. So, I kind of cut it off here between Ocon, Ricciardo, and Lawson. A couple of people complained that I hadn't done Lawson properly, but I'd already started doing the simulations literally after the Singapore Grand Prix. I don't know if you've ever tried to do 100 simulations. Why would you? It's an absolute ordeal. It took hours of my life. So by the time I'd got onto doing some of the simulations, I'd already done, I want to say like 10 or 12, which doesn't sound like loads, but in the grand scheme of things, it's hours. And I knew that I was going to be really tight getting this video done because I only had that 3-week gap. Therefore, was like, okay, we'll just put them together. Put them together. And people can complain about the fact that Lawson and Ricciardo are combined. Also, the reason I kind of left them combined is because in the simulations I'd done up to that point, Daniel Ricciardo had just finished exactly where he is in the standings now anyway. And then when Lawson, I switched it to Lawson, and I did a few, the same was happening. As you can see, there was only 7 simulations where they actually moved position in any way. And in 5 of those, they went backwards anyway. So I was like, really not worth talking about Ricciardo and Lawson. I think the main one to be like excited about is Colapinto. And I think it's because the range of data that I used, obviously, for Colapinto is so small. And in that range of data, he's already scored 4 points. Like, he has done exceptionally well in the 3 races that he's been in so far. So the simulation kind of extrapolated on that a little bit. Plus the fact that the Williams car has just been so much better post-summer break has meant that, like, Colapinto really, really flew on a few of those seasons, like came 15th in the standings. Like, imagine if Colapinto finishes ahead of Ocon, Magnussen, Behrman, and Gasly, gets in front of a Haas, gets in front of both Alpines. That is a hell of a season if Colapinto can do that. He only did it 6 times, of course, and did end up finishing 20th, where he is more often than not. But at the same time, really, really one to keep an eye out for, which I thought was like a really, really interesting way. How do I run these sims? Based on distribution of the first part of the year? Yes, so it's based on the F1 general stats. So you can go on the F1 website. I don't know, actually. Do you have to be part of F1 TV? You might have to be part of F1 TV. You can go on the Formula 1 website, and they have really nice breakdowns of relative performance. So they give you like a scope of where the car was in Bahrain and its relative performance now in comparison to the other teams on the grid, generally in comparison to Red Bull, because they were the fastest team at the beginning. So it's one of those ones where you just have to use as much data as you can, right? So I compile as much of the data from the Formula 1 website as I possibly can. I try and translate that into game statistics, which is another thing you have to do. Like, obviously, I can't just be like, here, F1 24 game, here's some stats. You have to kind of turn that into, okay, what's the relative pace of each of the cars? What's the relative pace of each of the drivers? And, there's always intricacies. There's always ways I could make it better, I'm sure. But it is really, really fun to delve into. And that's why I love doing those videos. And hence why there's been a few. Although the middle one, so I wanted to do one at the beginning of the season, which I did. The middle one that I did, I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't planning on it, but Surfshark were really interested in doing a collaboration on that kind of video. And it kind of makes sense, right? Surfshark, VPN, simulations, computers. I don't know. That was what they wanted, and that's what we talked about. And that was my first ever brand deal. So I wasn't going to be like, no. You know what I mean? Offered your first ever brand deal, you kind of you wiggle around a little bit and maybe make one. But definitely wanted to do one for this bit. Then moving up, Alex Albon had an absolute barnstormer of a season here, by the way. Was ridiculous. Scored 32 points, 20 points in the last 6 races in a Williams car. Like, give that man a knighthood if he manages to do that. Absolutely ridiculous stuff from him. But as you can see, I think this is fair because Albon, 91 of the 100 simulations, kind of landed where he was. And I think that's fair because, you look at the fact he's 10 points off Yuki Tsunoda as it stands. And yes, he scored 8 points since the summer break. But the likelihood of that continuing on, it's a little bit shaky, isn't it? I'm not sold on the Williams car being fully there yet, especially because Aston Martin are bringing upgrades. RB are bringing upgrades. Haas are bringing a minor upgrade as well. Like, the Williams car, it's just the start of the season. If they'd have started the season just that little bit better, they hadn't have had those crashes. They hadn't have had all the turmoil over the winter. I know it's for the greater good in the long run, but it did feel like that really cost them in the short term. But as James Bowser said so many times, he's not worried about the short term even slightly. This little group of 3 is my most exciting group, I think. That little group of 3, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Tsunoda. I'm really excited to see what those 3 can do. Like, look at that absolute shambles. 39, 33, 27 for Hulkenberg, 43, 42, 14 for Stroll. Like, you can just see none of them are like bright green, are they? They're all that murky middle green, murky middle ground. Definitely interested to see how those 3 line up. I'd love for Hulkenberg to win it. I'd love for Tsunoda to win it. I feel like that battle for 10th, especially because it is a top 10 finish. And I know that that's not technically top half now because we've got 23 drivers in the standings. But finishing top 10 is still like a pride thing, I think, for a lot of drivers. Or at least it would be for me. It would, you're seeing yourself in the top half of the drivers on the field. And especially when you're in a middle of the road car, you're kind of best of the rest. I know Fernando Alonso is also in there. Fernando Alonso is in a league of his own. The rest of those drivers, sort of Hulkenberg down, you're the best of that rest, aren't you? The best of those drivers outside the big teams and Fernando Alonso. So that's a really interesting battle that I want to see. The Hulkenberg Stroll Sonoda battle. Alonso, obviously, in a league of his own. Like, ridiculous to think that he wouldn't finish every single of those simulations in 9th place. It was interesting, though, just to see, like, even in seasons where he did really, really well, finished in 9th. Even seasons where he ended really, really poorly, finished in 9th. Like, there were a couple of seasons where he absolutely smashed it and still finished in 9th. There were a couple of seasons where he effectively DNF'd in every single race and he still finished in 9th. It really is just like a dead-end season. Sprint qualifying, we're about 5 minutes away. No, 8 minutes away. Just looking at that. This little group is quite interesting. Well, I say group. Carlos Sainz is just a little bit too far ahead for it to be super, super interesting, I guess. Carlos Sainz, 91% chance of finishing in 5th. And again, the only times he didn't, it was quite catastrophic in one race or a two. You know, he had like a couple of DNFs or a DNF and a no points finish. And it was like, oh, okay. They're the seasons that kind of went wrong. The ones that went smoothly, and even the ones where he did really, really well, he just ended up finishing in 5th place. So wasn't too much for Carlos Sainz to do. I thought this was quite interesting, though. This battle between Hamilton and Russell in my simulations. The fact that, like, Russell, I can't remember the stats now. Is it like 13-5 or something to Hamilton in terms of qualifying? Russell is absolute. Like, if you look at the statistics, Russell is absolutely smashing Hamilton this season. He's much quicker in qualifying. He's much quicker in the races, generally speaking. If you look at the average kind of finishing positions, or like their finishing positions as a graph next to one another, Russell's are generally way, way better. It's just in that small portion of the season where Mercedes had the best car for like 4 races for no reason, they just like fell in Hamilton's favor. Like the disqualification in Belgium, the DNF in Silverstone, just those races that fell Lewis Hamilton's way have made such a big difference to the fact that now Hamilton goes into this in the lead. And actually, I think this is the one area where I really disagree with the simulation, to be honest with you. I think that George Russell has had a better season than Lewis Hamilton. And I think that George Russell, if you look at his performances from the beginning of the season, as long as he can continue his positive trajectory, it's been so up and down, but as long as George Russell can be a little bit more consistent, maybe, for the last 5-6 races of the season, I think George Russell should probably finish in front of Lewis Hamilton. I know Lewis Hamilton has a, 19-point lead or something, but the car has just looked better with George Russell more often than not. And yeah, that really irked me because the game was like, nah, Lewis Hamilton definitely wins that battle. Like 70 times Hamilton finished above Russell. And I'm just not sure about that. Just not sure I can fully get behind that, like, yeah, 70% Hamilton, 30% Russell. I think it's way more 50-50. Way more 50-50. Leclerc Piastri, I really like this battle. Again, Leclerc ahead at the moment, but the simulation's saying Piastri more likely to take that position from Leclerc. Even though there's some good Ferrari races coming up. The US is a good Ferrari track. Las Vegas is a good Ferrari track. I don't think this battle is done and dusted. And in fact, in the video, I say Leclerc Piastri, probably my favorite 50-50. Like, probably my favorite battle of the season left to play out. Just because the Norris-Verstappen one, there's such a gap in the standings right now. But actually, Leclerc Piastri, such a small gap. Was it 8 points between them? Some races where I think Leclerc is definitely favoured. Some races where I think Piastri is definitely favoured. They've been finishing within a position or two with each other for the last 7 or 8 rounds. You know, they were swapping victories, Monza and Azerbaijan. They were fighting for the lead in both of those races. You know, Piastri was the highest scoring McLaren in Monza. Then Piastri did that massive dive bomb overtake on Leclerc in Azerbaijan. Like, they've had real twos and fros, those two, and they've always finished close to one another. I think that is so exciting and so underplayed. I mean, people have like focused so heavily on Verstappen Norris, which I get. It's for the championship, I know. But like, let's talk about Leclerc and Piastri as well. Let's talk about that. And then, of course, Verstappen Norris. Verstappen wins 82% of the time. I think that's even a little bit generous to Norris. I think it's like a 90% now. Max Verstappen wins the championship. I know I should be a little bit more in the favor of the McLaren. As a McLaren fan, you'd hope that I have that faith and belief. I do think it will go all the way down to the wire. I do think, you know, we'll be in Qatar, maybe Abu Dhabi, and Lando Norris will still be in contention. But I just think it's just a little bit too much. A little bit too much. I think if you look at, what is it, Miami to Azerbaijan, that like gap. So when the McLaren was like at its best, or came into its best, between Miami and Azerbaijan, I think something like 1 point was how much Lando Norris gained on Max Verstappen. Which I know is like picking a very specific part of the season. But that is quite a broad part of the season. But at the same time, he hasn't really closed the gap that much. Since the summer break, it's been a bit better. The gap has closed a bit more. But generally speaking, I do think it's kind of 90-10 in Verstappen's favour. And maybe the simulations were a little bit kind to Lando Norris here. I think he's got his work cut out for him to finish ahead of Verstappen, in my opinion. Streaming the race? We will. In fact, are we there? We are indeed. We're a minute away from the sprint qualifying. So we are live for all competitive sessions of the season and a preview show as well. So we did the preview show earlier on today. If you want to hear my opinions on Daniel Ricciardo being replaced for Liam Lawson, the Red Bull craziness, Toyota coming in for Haas, I talked about all of that, and also free practice 1 as it was happening on that preview show, just because it ended up timing quite nicely with free practice 1 being on at the same time. And then we are on for every single competitive session, which means for a sprint weekend, we're on for every single session, effectively. We're on for sprint qualifying, the sprint race tomorrow morning, the qualifying for the Grand Prix tomorrow as well, and the race itself. How much time did it take for the simulations to go, finish, and what was your setup? Effectively, go on to F124 if you have it, right? Go on to F124. Basically, go through the settings and sort of choose those 6 races, so the 3 sprint weekends and the race, and just simulate. So you basically go onto the race and you say like skip forward until the race, so it simulates qualifying, and then you go into the race and you skip forward through the race, and then you do that for every single one, so 6 times plus the sprints, and that's one simulation. So it takes hours. Hours upon hours upon hours. And I have to do it, like, it's not like I can do it anywhere else. I have to do it on my PC because I have to run a slightly modded version of F124. It was a bit of an ordeal, but worth it for the video because I do really love those simulation videos when they come off. And I think people really enjoy them. So I'm happy with that. Let's get into sprint qualifying then. Of course, sprint qualifying 1 slightly shorter than qualifying normally. Just the 12 minutes, 10 minutes for sprint qualifying 2, 8 minutes for sprint qualifying 3, which actually might be quite interesting this time around because it's quite a long track here at Austin. We've got a Red Bull of Max Verstappen ready and raring to get us underway. Oops, there's the sector timings. Verstappen is going to be the first man to come out on track as the lights go green. Haas then follows out. Is that Nico Hülkenberg? Kevin Magnussen? Can't tell. Nico Hülkenberg behind Max Verstappen. Zhou Guanyu also coming out on track. Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, the Haas of Kevin Magnussen as well. Little bit of a queue in the pit lane. Was the Red Bull drama? The Red Bull drama is they had a component inside of the car which is used to adjust the height of the front element of the floor, sometimes called like the T-tray or the bib, at the front of the floor, and you can lower and raise the height of it. Now, you're allowed to do that, perfectly fine. You're not allowed to do that between qualifying and the race. So during parc fermé conditions, you're not allowed to raise or lower the car. Supposedly, Red Bull never did. Although this component was there inside of the car, you wouldn't be able to actually access it during those parc fermé conditions, according to them. So we have to take their word for it and say, okay, well. The FIA were like, well, because it exists and because we've now seen it inside the car and because we know it's there, they've put in place an extra regulation where they have to come and cover that. So they're going to seal that component inside of the car. They're going to put like a casing on it and then seal that up so they definitely cannot raise or lower the height of the car. Because as much as we'd love to trust Red Bull, we know how competitive the season can get, and we don't want them just being tempted to be like, oh, little tweak. Oh, little tweak there for the race. Make that car a little bit higher. Oh, there we are. Don't want them to do that. Oh. Top 3 predictions for the sprint. I think it's very open. I do like the look of the Ferrari car just from free practice 1, and the fact that I think this circuit, you know, you're looking at Ferrari, they've been on pole the last couple of years. Yeah, Charles Leclerc was on pole the last couple of years here, right? I want to say. Should know, but I haven't done a lot of my research because it's a Friday qualifying session and I haven't had a Saturday to prepare. So yeah, I think the Ferrari be good. So I reckon Leclerc's going to be up there. I mean, it's quite boring, isn't it, to just say Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen. But that kind of feels like the way it's going. Carlos Sainz looks good. Piastri looks good. It's going to be those 5, isn't it? Because the Mercedes looking really out of shape during free practice 1. Looked really unstable. So unless they can find a quick fix, not sure about them. I want to say congrats on 100k. Thank you so much, man. And we got our play button just before the stream. It was literally a few days ago. We got it just before we, or just as I was setting up sort of bits and pieces for this weekend's streams, which is great. Gazoo on the hats. Yeah, the Toyota badge already on there. That did happen quick, didn't it? It was like announced and then they were like, bang, Toyota badge on the car. Smack. Across the rear wing as well. Lovely. Max Verstappen, as said, first man across the line. Here we go then. Times are going to come in. And Verstappen a 1:34.6. Nico Hülkenberg was the second man out of the pit lane, and he's second fastest. Second off the pace of Max Verstappen. Of course, medium compound tyres have to be used during sprint qualifying 1 here. Zhou Guanyu, another second off Nico Hülkenberg. Well, not quite, but Sergio Perez then comes across the line. Ooh, couple attempts, a couple of hundreds, sorry, of his teammate. Valtteri Bottas goes quicker than Joe. Although that's not a difficult one. Kevin Magnussen goes fastest, a 1:34.2 from K-Mag. Sergio Perez's time deleted for track limits. Yeah, Gasly then goes third fastest. Kevin Magnussen. 3/10 faster than a Red Bull, by the way. Liam Lawson then enters the top 3 drivers with a 1:34.7. Scrap that. Yuki Tsunoda becomes the fastest Red Bull powered car out on track with a 1:34.6. Displaces Max Verstappen and takes second spot on the timing sheets. Esteban Ocon slots in behind his teammate in 6th spot. going very well indeed for Kevin Magnussen, isn't it? Lando Norris, though, is going fairly quickly. Purple through the middle sector, Lando Norris, but still a 10th off Kevin Magnussen's time is Lando Norris right now. Oscar Piastri also not the fastest first and second sectors. Magnussen looking much quicker than Oscar Piastri right now. Alex Albon and Colapinto come across the line 6th and 7th. Here comes Lando Norris then, round the final corner. Is he going to touch the top spot? He does. A much better final sector from Lando Norris. Saved what was looking to be a pretty middling lap. A 1:33.9 from Lando Norris. Maybe it is that final sector where the McLaren shines. Oscar Piastri 9 tenths off the pace though. Yeah, not a great lap from Oscar Piastri in that way. Black fits well in the setup. Thank you. Be a gold one underneath. No, I'm joking. Very much away from there. RB top Red Bull team. Confirmed. Charles Leclerc comes across the line. There it is. Charles Leclerc goes top of the timing sheets. 1:33.8. I do think Leclerc might be on pole. I think Leclerc might get pole, but whether or not he wins the sprint is a different question. We know that Charles Leclerc often gets pole position, but does not win from pole position. Lando Norris, though, 0.02 of a second off Hamilton. Quickest in the first sector. Not something we've seen overly often from Lewis Hamilton this weekend. Not that we've seen much. Obviously, George Russell comes in 4th fastest. 10th or so off Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton, though, is going to be going... Lewis Hamilton goes fastest. Thought he was going to definitely go into the top 3. He does indeed. Goes top of the top 3. And puts Leclerc and Norris down into 2nd and 3rd. Obviously, we are still just looking for the bottom 5 in this first sprint qualifying session. So at the moment, it would be Esteban Ocon, Nico Hülkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, and Sergio Perez, who would drop out of qualifying as it stands. They are the 5 drivers that need to improve desperately. New drivers coming into the pits. Colapinto just making his way into the pit lane. Where did Alonso and Stroll end up? Didn't actually see the Aston Martins come through. 7th and 8th. Too shabby at all. Again, in that kind of best of the rest, middle of the pack. Max Verstappen only 10th fastest at the moment. Oscar Piastri will also be looking over his shoulder. 2nd off the pace of the top drivers. 9 tenths off of his teammate. Not the Oscar Piastri we've expected to see post-summer break. Alex Albon, Colapinto also under a lot of pressure in 14th and 15th place. Alex Albon now making his way out of the pits and back onto the track. Verstappen is also going for a fast lap once more. So Verstappen through the first sector. Less than a tenth off Lewis Hamilton through the first sector is Max Verstappen. And that was where where Lewis Hamilton went purple. So Verstappen on for an opportunity here at a top spot. Hamilton a 1:02 into the middle sector. Here comes Verstappen through it. Compare Verstappen's time to Hamilton as he comes around the corner and breaks the line. Yeah, 0.02 of a second off Max Verstappen. Going to be super tight between the top drivers. Verstappen looking to put himself in the mix and looking like it's going to be a 10th separating the top 4 as it stands right now. Sergio Perez doesn't improve through the first sector. The Mexican needs a little bit more than that if he's going to actually make it through this qualifying session. Only a couple attempts quicker than Colapinto in 15th spot. Here comes Verstappen. And not quite the final sector. Ended up 0.06 of a second off Lewis Hamilton. But it was looking like Verstappen was going to really trouble Hamilton's time. I mean, he's within a 10th of it. It looked like he was going to take the top spot at one moment. Sergio Perez now coming through the final corner, trying to save his qualifying and moves himself up into 7th spot. Much better from Sergio Perez after a pretty shocking first sector. And saved it through the final two. There's a long lap here in Austin as well. There's lots of areas where you can gain and lose time. So just because you're up in one sector does not guarantee yourself a spot anywhere close. Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen and Norris all within a tenth of one another at the top of the timing sheets. Carlos Sainz then fifth, 0.3 off the pace. Colapinto hasn't improved in the first sector and has now dropped into that bottom five. Frustrating for him. He's put in exactly the same lap time as Alex Albon, but is behind his teammate. Alex Albon, the man on the bubble, in 14th spot. Colapinto, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Bottas, and Zhou, the 5 drivers that need to improve. Everybody making their way around. Fernando Alonso just making his way across the start-finish line. Bottas, Zhou, Stroll, Leclerc making their way around. Esteban Ocon is just coming around turn 19. He's going to have to wait a little bit at the final corner. The track is getting very busy indeed. Colapinto trying to make his way through the traffic. The orange Alpines are going to absolutely ruin my career this weekend. Keep thinking it's a McLaren. It's not. Colapinto, 11th fastest. Again, didn't improve in the first sector, but much better through the second and third for the Argentine. Piastri gets a little bit out of shape as he goes through turn 19, making his way down towards turn 20. Goes up to 7th fastest, but it wasn't a clean lap from Piastri whatsoever. But that should be enough. Oh, it's Alex Albon. Alex Albon spins, and that is going to be Alex Albon out of this qualifying session. A full 360 from Alex Albon as he made his way through turn 19. Alex Albon then drops out of qualifying for certain. Nico Hülkenberg comes across the line, only 15th fastest still. Liam Lawson, currently 14th fastest. We're on board with him as he makes his way through turn 19. Around turn 20 now comes Liam Lawson. Lawson looking to improve, does improve and moves himself ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Albon is definitely out. Ocon out by the looks of things. Where is Esteban Ocon's times? Ocon is improving. Whether it's enough, we're going to have to wait and see. Valtteri Bottas comes across the line. Not good enough. Oscar Piastri's lap time was deleted. Piastri down in P16. Piastri is dropped. Wow. Alex Albon apologizes to the team on the radio. Managed to keep it in the white lines, did Alex Albon. Lap time counted, but was not quicker after a pirouette around turn 19. Not good enough for Oscar Piastri. Wow. There you have it then. Piastri being the form driver, I would say, in the last few Grand Prix. Probably the last 6 Grand Prix, I'd say. Oscar Piastri has maybe been the best driver, sort of on average across those. Scored the most points, of course, over that period. And Oscar Piastri out of qualifying. Disaster for Oscar Piastri. He joins Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Valtteri Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu. I guess the only saving grace is it is only the sprint. You know, there's only 8 points available. So even if Charles Leclerc picks up all 8 points and Piastri gets 0, it's not as big of a swing as obviously the full Grand Prix. And Oscar Piastri will still be a bit further off, but within touching distance of Charles Leclerc. So that it's not absolute disaster for Oscar Piastri. Albon will be frustrated at that. Looking at where Colapinto is, I think Albon will know. He's being outdone a little bit here, isn't he, Alex Albon? A lot of the talk has been about Colapinto. Alex Albon now out of qualifying. Bottas and Zhou expected probably at the back of the pack. The 15 drivers through. Charles Leclerc was quickest overall in that session, a 1:33.647 for the Ferrari man. Lewis Hamilton second fastest, Verstappen third. Lando Norris just behind his championship rival, although it was a very tight indeed between those two. 11 thousandths of a second between Norris and Verstappen. It is super tight. Carlos Sainz came home 5th, George Russell 6th, Stroll in 7th place, Sergio Perez 8th, Kevin Magnussen 9th, Fernando Alonso in 10th place. Remember, only the top 8 drivers score points in the sprint race tomorrow. Kind of where you want to start. You want to start in the points, finish in the points. Colapinto, 11th fastest. He'll have to improve if he wants to get through to SQ3. And so will Liam Lawson, who was 12th, Yuki Tsunoda 13th, Nico Hülkenberg 14th, and Pierre Gasly in 15th. The 5 drivers that we will no longer see taking part in this weekend's sprint qualifying for the Austin Grand Prix are Oscar Piastri, who will start tomorrow's sprint in 16th spot, Esteban Ocon 17th, Alex Albon in 18th, Bottas and Joe at the back of the pack. Ouch. Ouch indeed for McLaren fans everywhere. Piastri fans even more frustrated still. Spoke too soon. Albon his cheeks. Albon's not bad. Absolutely not. But it's just off, isn't it? Just off what he wanted. Lewis going to score all 34 points. Trust. Interesting. Yeah, maybe. Do you have to make a pit stop in the sprint? No, you do not. You do not have to make a pit stop in the sprint. In fact, it's kind of designed for you not to make a pit stop. That's kind of the differential between a sprint and a race. You are allowed to make a pit stop during the sprint, but making up 20 odd seconds is going to be very, very tough in what is a third of a race, isn't it? And Colapinto outqualifies Albon in his first F1 Sprint Shootout session. Does indeed. Be interesting to see in the last. So we've got 9 qualifying sessions, right? 3 sprints and 6 qualies. Interesting to see in this last 9. I feel like they're the ones to keep an eye on, right? Colapinto, Albon, and Lawson, Tsunoda in these last 9 are definitely very, very interesting to do. Forgot to change the neon track behind. Don't worry, this grandstand is coming back. They're just doing a little bit of work on it. Hello, Mallory. How you doing? Change the track. I can't. It's made of plastic. It's got probably fluid in it. I'll leave the neon track as it is. Unless I can afford a new one. But don't really want to. They gave it to me for free. Can I complain? No. Oh, Alex Albon spin. He gets on the curb. It's those orange bollards. So inside the curbs here at Austin, obviously the red and white striped curbs are there. Then inside the curbs, some of them have this orange kind of mound, orange hump. That's what we would call it. I feel like there's a proper name. Speed bump, an orange bouncer. Right. And you get on it. It just dislodges that front left wheel of Alex Albon's car off the track. Spins around. And lost. Oof. Tough for Alex Albon. Very, very tough indeed. Good save from Alex Albon. Not to, cause massive damage to the car. Didn't put it in the barriers or anything like that. But frustrating that you can see what he could have had. Colapinto there making it through. Nico Hülkenberg, though, is going to be the first driver to get us underway. In sausage curb, yeah. Although it's not quite. I feel like the sausage curbs are kind of the longer ones. Whereas this is like just a little. It's quite a little bump. So, don't know if it's got an official name. Maybe a sausage curb. It's sort of a sausage curb. So, Hülkenberg and Magnussen, first out, the home Grand Prix of the Haas team, of course. Even though they have, about 15 different places where they're now based. They've got the base in Austin. The base in the US. I can't remember where it is now. Glendale? Am I making that up? Maybe. They've got the base in the US. They've got the base in Italy. They've got the base in the UK. They now have a base in Cologne with Toyota. So Haas really are a multicultural bunch. They are here, there, and everywhere. But technically, I guess, their home race. Because I think if you called Haas's home race Italy, they'd slap you across the head. George Russell, Lewis Hamilton just behind the two Haas's. Lando Norris making his way around for McLaren. Carlos Sainz at turn 9 as well. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. Colapinto out on track. The sole Williams to make it through. Pierre Gasly also benefiting from Piastri's lap time being deleted. He jumps up into Q2. Don't think I can expect much more from Pierre Gasly. I was expecting Gasly to drop out, if I'm honest. As much as I love Pierre. Where do I live? What? Norwich. Let's make it broad. What happened to Piastri? Track limits infringement, I'm afraid. Lap time deleted and dropped all the way down the board. And his first time was poor. I think that was the thing. Piastri didn't get that banker lap in. First lap was pretty poor. Second lap was passable. It would have got him through moderately comfortably. But not great at all from Piastri. We're missing a McLaren, we're missing an Alpine, we're missing a Williams, and 2 Stake Sauber cars. Thank you for subscribing, Jonathan. Appreciate it, mate. We're on our way to 1,000. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 110,000 subscribers, is what I want to say. Thought I was Scottish. No. Do you like Iron Brew, though? So, maybe. Does that make you Scottish? Probably not. I don't like haggis. That sort of takes bits away, doesn't it? Here we are then. We're finally getting some laptops on the board. Hulkenberg going to be the first man to set a lap time in this sprint qualifying 2 for us. Only 10 minutes on the board. 3.5 already gone. 6 minutes to go. Hulkenberg, a 1:33.9 sets the standard. George Russell, though, going quicker than Lewis Hamilton through the second sector. Hamilton quicker than Russell through the first sector. There's going to be a real battle between the two Mercedes cars. George Russell's going to get us across the line and goes a 1:33.5. Displaces both of the Haas's. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Is it close? It is better. 10.5 quicker than his teammate. Lewis Hamilton quicker in the first sector than anybody else. Russell quickest in the middle. Magnussen actually quickest of anybody of the 4 so far in the final sector. Make that Lando Norris. Lando Norris goes 3rd fastest overall. A couple attempts still, though, off Lewis Hamilton's lap time there. Of course, we're just looking for the top 10 here. So we're going to lose 5 more drivers. 11 through 15. They'll join the 5 that dropped out in SQ1 before we have the lights out run to pole position in SQ3 with only 8 minutes on the board. It's going to be very tight for a lot of the drivers in SQ3. Almost going to be a 1-lap quali. A few of the drivers out there, unless you get out on track almost instantly. 5 minutes to go in this one. Colapinto has just separated the Haas's. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc have come across the line for Ferrari. Carlos Sainz has gone quickest with a 1:33.2. Charles Leclerc slotted into 3rd place. Hamilton in the middle of them. Soon to be a Ferrari driver. So Ferrari really running top 3 here. George Russell in 4th spot. Lando Norris 5th. Kevin Magnussen 6th. Colapinto 7th. Hulkenberg 8th. And they are the drivers so far that have set a lap time. Here comes Max Verstappen just through turn 1 on his first flying lap of the SQ2 session. Terrible camera angle from some sort of drone. Excellent. If you're going to get a drone, make sure that the camera is absolutely amazing. But unfortunately not. Max Verstappen. It's not an amazing first sector time from Verstappen at 25.1. Pretty decent. Here we go. Bumps. Down towards the end of the second sector. Verstappen comes through it. It's purple. It's green through there, but he's still 0.2 up on Carlos Sainz's time. Verstappen looking much better. Thank you for subscribing, TARDIS Boy 1. Who's your favourite Doctor Who? Who's your favourite Doctor Who? I have met a Doctor Who. Who do you reckon it was? Max Verstappen coming around the final corner. Oh, a little bit out of shape through turn 20 was Verstappen, but still good enough to go second fastest overall. 0.02 of a second off Carlos Sainz. Sergio Perez, still no time for him as of yet. Coming around out on track. Stroll, Alonso, Lawson, Tsunoda, Gasly yet to set a lap time. With only 2.5 minutes to go. Here comes Sergio Perez. Just making his way through the middle sector. Should be fairly comfortably through here, Sergio Perez. Looking at the opposition that he has. And the top 10 possibilities. Sergio Perez, 5.5 tenths off the pace of Carlos Sainz at the top of the tree. Sergio Perez still should be moderately comfortable. You're looking at Kevin Magnussen is 5 tenths off. Colapinto 6.5 tenths, so he needs to get out there in front. Aston Martin's out too late. No, they're just making their way around turn 11 now? Turn 12? Yeah, Alonso's making his way around turn 12. They should be all right. Got a minute and a half. Yeah, they'll be fine. Aston Martin should be fine. Kevin Magnussen. Oh. Maybe a little bit of a dangerous release there from the RB. Gasly coming around in the orange Alpine. Alpine really doesn't suit orange, does it? Blue or pink. They are your two colours you're allowed. That is all. Max Verstappen on the radio. Struggling a lot with the ride. Very bumpy. Obviously, can't adjust the ride height inside the car. Stroll, Alonso, Lawson, Tsunoda, Gasly, still the drivers without a lap time. Sergio Perez, that lap time did end up being 9 tenths off the pace. That is not a lap time you would want to see from Sergio Perez. He is under pressure. Lando Norris looking to improve. Goes through the middle sector. He's only 0.02 off of it. Gasly, 11th fastest. So that, unfortunately, is Gasly out of it, as we were kind of expecting, I think. Tsunoda and Lawson, though. Here they come. Tsunoda around the final corner. And Tsunoda knocks Sergio Perez out for the moment. Sergio Perez out of qualifying as it stands. Here comes Liam Lawson too. Can Lawson knock out his teammate? Can Lawson put the first dagger into the Yuki Tsunoda hearts? No. Lawson only 12th fastest. Tsunoda quicker than his teammate. Tsunoda will qualify ahead of Liam Lawson for the sprint. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso will be the final cars across the line. Here comes Fernando Alonso through 19 and 20. Can Alonso scrape his way through? No, it's only 12 fastest for Alonso. Lance Stroll, the last man, improved through the first and second sectors, but can't improve enough. Stays 15th fastest. Sergio Perez, the next big casualty then. We've lost 2 big drivers in there. I thought you know, the fact that Oscar Piastri had dropped out meant that Sergio Perez was pretty much guaranteed it, if I'm honest with you. But Sergio Perez, 11th place overall in sprint qualifying 2. Fernando Alonso, 12th. Liam Lawson, 13th. Pierre Gasly, 14th. And Lance Stroll, 15th are the 5 drivers that we are going to lose in qualifying 2. It was, oh, no, it was Liam Lawson. Over before it started, made a mistake at turn 1. Might even get that lap time deleted because very, very close to going over the white line at turn 1 there, Liam Lawson. And where was the mistake? Fernando Alonso. Oh, Fernando Alonso lap time deleted turn 19. Didn't see that as he came around, but Fernando Alonso's lap time's deleted, so he's actually going to drop to the back of that 5. So, and Stroll, is Stroll's lap time deleted as well? Or is it just gone? Maybe. I know Lance Stroll's time. Don't know where Lance Stroll's time's gone off the thing, off the timing sheets, but he is a second and a 10th off the pace. Anyways, it doesn't matter too much. So that is our bottom 10 then. Sergio Perez 11th, Lawson 12th, Gasly 13th, Stroll 14th, Alonso 15th. The 5 drivers to drop out in SQ2. They join the 5 drivers that dropped out in SQ1, being Oscar Piastri, Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, Valtteri Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu. That means there's a big 4 spots for the kind of midfield cars, with Sergio Perez and Oscar Piastri dropping out and the Aston Martins not being in the top 10. You know, usually you've got a Fernando Alonso amongst it. It means that we've got Sainz, Verstappen, Hamilton, and Leclerc, along with Russell and Norris, our top 6, who are going to be fighting for pole position. But then you've also got a lovely little battle behind. Magnussen, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, and Tsunoda all battling out for 2 possible point-scoring spaces there. And those points would be huge. Nico Hulkenberg, they would put him ahead of Lance Stroll, like fully ahead of Lance Stroll. Obviously, Colapinto, just the bragging rights that he would get. Oh, there you go. It was Liam Lawson. I thought that lap time was going to be deleted by Liam Lawson. It looked very marginal. But yeah, Lawson's lap time deleted as well. Drops him down to 15th spot in there. But yeah, Magnussen, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda. 2 of those 4 are going to start in the point-scoring places in a sprint race. Like, that is a banging for them. Like, you know, they'd be happy with 2 points in a Grand Prix. 2 points in a sprint race. You've got to finish in 7th spot to get that. Very, very impressed. If any of those guys can hold on to that spot. Obviously, Sergio Perez is going to be just behind. Piastri's got a long way to come, though. I think this sprint race could get a little bit tasty. Both of the Haas's in there. Haas will really want this because they could move ahead of RB in the Constructors' Championship. They get a double points finish. Magnussen and Hulkenberg, 7th and 8th. Get them ahead of RB. Obviously, Colapinto, as I said, those bragging rights. He's come in to the Williams team. Outperformed Albon in Singapore. Now, sort of looking at it, Alex Albon's under a bit of pressure from Colapinto. Colapinto looks quick, though, doesn't he? Obviously, it's always that thing. Like, Liam Lawson had the same thing last year. When you're only in the car for a very short window of time, the pressure is so different. And, like, the expectation is so different. You can come in with that kind of buzz. You can come in with that kind of energy. I think you can see it with Colapinto really clearly. He just is absolutely loving every single moment that he gets to be a Formula 1 driver. As you should do, because he might only be a Formula 1 driver for 4 months. You know what I mean? This could be the end of Colapinto in Formula 1. He's got no guarantee of a seat in the future. He's got no guarantee of being on the Formula 1 grid anytime soon after the season ends. So he's just absolutely enjoying every single moment. And I feel like that enjoyment, the fact that you're there in the car and you're in that kind of flow state, there's no pressure on you, right? There's no pressure on Colapinto whatsoever. So just makes sense. He's been so impressive, though. So impressive. Yeah, quickly becoming one of my faves. I couldn't agree more. Just seems like a lovely guy as well. And I do love the South American. I've been saying for a long time we need a Brazilian on the grid. Feels weird to not have a Brazilian on the Formula One grid. Argentinian, I'll take. I know they're not the same country. I know they're very different. That might be a little bit racist, but he's there. He's in the South American region, and love to see it. Ooh, Colapinto impeded by Gasly. Gasly might end up with a little penalty there. Because Gasly does apologise, to be fair. He knew he'd done wrong, but still. Interesting. Feel like the midfield is going to be very tight, especially the sprint. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Lawson washed. Not so much. Especially because Lawson does have a... likely will have a penalty, right? Has that been confirmed yet? Should be. SQ3. Is it finished? Absolutely not. It's just getting underway. It's just started. We've got 7 minutes and 55 seconds left. Got 5 seconds done. Bortoletto on the F1 grid. Oh, yeah. Where did he go, though? This is the problem. We need more teams. Like, I'm not really that bothered about having more teams for the sake of having more teams. Like, as much as it would be cool to have Andretti or whatever, I'm not that bothered by it. I would like more teams for the sole reason of getting more drivers on the grid. I don't care who the other teams are. Don't care what they stand for. I'm probably never ever going to support them. Not even that bothered if... I'd like them to be moderately competitive. You know, have a little bit of a battle every now and then. I understand they're probably never going to finish in the top 10. They're going to be the kind of team that is competitive with Alpine and Stake every now and then. You know what I mean? They're probably going to be that kind of team. But I'd love to just see a couple more teams on the grid so that we can have a bedding ground for those younger drivers. Like, you look at Daniel Ricciardo and he went to Marussia. Marussia was shocking. One of the worst teams we've ever had in Formula One. But it gave him an opportunity to at least get on the grid and then could start to make his way up. Obviously, I know he's just retired, and that's maybe a little bit of an outdated one. But I just feel like we need... Formula 2 just doesn't really work, does it? Just doesn't really work. Because you don't have to be the best driver in Formula 2 to get into Formula 1. Like, a lot of the drivers that win Formula 2 don't necessarily get into Formula 1. I mean, almost all the drivers that win Formula 2 nowadays don't get into Formula 1. And yet, like, someone like an Ollie Behrman who's had a disaster season in Formula 2 because of the Ferrari connections and because we've seen how good he is in Formula 1 because he got an opportunity in Formula 1. Same with Colapinto. Same with Lawson. Colapinto and Lawson never looked like winning Formula 2. Maybe Lawson at points, but Colapinto's never really looked like winning Formula 2. Now, one of the best drivers on the grid, we're like, yeah, get Colapinto into a seat. Slap him in a steak sour for the next couple of seasons. Love it. Absolutely love it. George Russell, Colapinto, Lewis Hamilton out on track at the moment on the soft compound tyres, being the early runners and riders. George Russell, yeah, first of those three. So he's going to set the standard for the session. Yeah, that'd be cool. Seeing them on the grid at the same time. Why didn't they give Dragovic a chance at Aston Martin? Because Lance Stroll pays for that seat. And Fernando Alonso is very, very good. Lewis Hamilton has just gone quicker than George Russell in the first sector. Right, let's zoom back in. Pivot our ideas. 4.5 minutes to go. We're going to see cars coming out of the pit lane very, very swiftly. And a yellow flag in sector 2. It's Colapinto. I've just talked him up, and I think he's made a mistake. Continues on his way, though. Here we go, then. George Russell at 132.8. Lewis Hamilton has to make his way past Colapinto. Probably wasn't expecting But Lewis Hamilton, very quick indeed. Hamilton looking like he's going to absolutely demolish George Russell's time. Just hopefully Colapinto didn't get in the way too much and Hamilton having to deal with that. Hamilton wrestling the Mercedes car, though, around these corners. Not smooth at all around the streets of Austin. And it's only second fastest. Half a second down. Wow. Franco Colapinto. A little bit out of shape through turn 1 was Franco. And then, oh, there's the slide. Very similar to what happened to Alex Albon, to be fair. Just the rear end of that car loves a little spin around. As soon as you get that little bit of understeer, gone. Just spins around. Colapinto through, though, at least. And Hamilton on the radio. Not very happy at all. Lap time deleted. Obviously, Colapinto, yep. That would be a track time deleted, I think. Yeah, Haas could definitely overtake VCarb in the constructors. Just subscribe. Thank you, Mark, mate. Appreciate it. I don't know if it popped up. It should pop up on the screen. Oh, well, it should pop up on the screen if you have your subs, whatever it's called, active, viewable. Colapinto, though, giving up on that lap, coming back into the pits. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton have set the standard. A 1:32.8 then is what the rest of the drivers will be looking at. Everybody else is on an out lap. No further investigation of that Gasly impeding on Colapinto. Interesting. But see, then one lap is all you've got. Proper one-lap shootout at the end of Sprint Qualifying 3 here in Austin. Lewis Hamilton just making his way into the pits, and Carlos Sainz is going to be the driver to go for it first. Lando Norris just behind him. Leclerc is going to be third across the start-finish line. Then Magnussen, then Tsunoda, then Verstappen, and then Hülkenberg. Colapinto is going to try and go for another lap. Colapinto might just have it. Carlos Sainz going for it in the Ferrari, just coming through the snaking 4, 5, 6. It's a real tough sector, that first sector in Austin. Obviously very reminiscent of the Japan S's. A little bit less pronounced than the Japan ones. What happened to Piastri? Lap time deleted. Made a little mistake. Turn 19, was it? Can't remember now. But Piastri out. Lap time deleted and was only quick enough for 16th. Carlos Sainz, not quickest in the first sector so far, but a good sector nonetheless. Lando Norris the same. No purple first sectors from either of those two. Verstappen is just starting his flying lap, so keep an eye on the Dutchman. Hülkenberg coming across the start-finish line. Colapinto might make it. It's going to be close. Coming around turn 19. He's got 10 seconds to get across the start-finish line. And make sure his tyres are in the right window. Here he comes. Colapinto across the line. Yes, Colapinto is going to get another run at it. Carlos Sainz is just about to finish his one flying lap. Carlos Sainz around the final corner, across the line. Second fastest. Couple attempts off George Russell's lap time. Lando Norris comes across the line next. Second fastest still. Lando Norris not quicker than Russell. Russell is still the man to beat with a 1:32.8. Here comes Charles Leclerc. Second fastest. Nobody can get ahead of George Russell. They keep improving on one another. But George Russell's still a 10th or 2 to the better. Max Verstappen. Can the Red Bull be the man to get onto the top spot of the podium places? Kevin Magnussen comes across the line. 5 tenths off the pace. He's only 6th fastest. Tsunoda is going to be next. Verstappen, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto, the final 3 drivers across the line. Tsunoda, 7th fastest, not good enough. Here comes Verstappen, round turn 19, carrying a lot of speed is Max Verstappen. Round turn 20, the current championship leader puts himself at the top of the timing sheet. A 100th of a second quicker than George Russell and goes into first spot. Nico Hulkenberg goes quicker than Hamilton, and Hulkenberg puts himself in 6th place. Colapinto, keep an eye on the Williams man. A 25.6 through the first sector, a 37.6 through the second sector. What can the Argentine do? Not good enough. Colapinto stays 10th fastest. That is our top 10, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be Max Verstappen starting on pole position for the Austin sprint race tomorrow. George Russell just behind him in 2nd. Sparks could fly between those two. Charles Leclerc in 3rd spot for a podium place. Lando Norris, the championship contender, in 4th spot just behind Leclerc. Carlos Sainz in 5th spot. And then Nico Hulkenberg in the Haas. He's done it once more. Nico Hulkenberg just always seems to qualify ridiculously well. Hulkenberg up into 6th. Lewis Hamilton into 7th spot, a 133.3 from the Briton. Wasn't happy at all inside the Mercedes car. 5 tenths off of his teammate. Kevin Magnussen in 8th spot will start in the point scoring places. Yuki Tsunoda in 9th and Colapinto in 10th. Just outside of those points places and definitely in the mix on the 5th row of the grid. Got to take part in Sprint Qualifying 3. The drivers that dropped out in Sprint Qualifying 2, Sergio Perez was 11th, Pierre Gasly 12th, Lance Stroll 13th, Fernando Alonso and Liam Lawson had their lap times deleted. They went to 14th and 15th fastest, those drivers in SQ2, but starting well outside the point scoring places for tomorrow's sprint, as are the 5 drivers that dropped out in SQ1. It was Oscar Piastri who was 16th fastest, after a lap time was deleted from him. Esteban Ocon, 17th fastest. Alex Albon, 18th fastest and frustrated after his pirouette at turn 19. Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu will start at the back of the pack. Wow. What a sprint qualifying. That was very entertaining indeed. That kind of 1-lap quali. There was a lot of tension there. Maybe we should introduce 1-lap qualies. Maybe, just maybe. Charles Leclerc, oh, lost it through the S's, and Charles Leclerc bumped his way over turn 5. Did well to carry a lot of speed through there, though. Looking at it on board, it was very bouncy and bumpy. Oh, actually, looking at the off board, it was also very bouncy and bumpy. Looking at it from behind, it just looked like it carried loads of speed through there. So very, very impressive indeed. 2 Haas's in SQ3. Exactly. Absolutely flying Haas. Hulkenberg 6th. Hulkenberg ahead of a Mercedes, ahead of a Red Bull, ahead of a McLaren. Hulkenberg flying. It's ridiculous from him. But that is where we'll leave you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate you joining me for sprint qualifying. We'll be back live again for the sprint race itself and for qualifying for the Grand Prix tomorrow, plus for the Grand Prix itself. Can I point you in the direction of any of the videos linked in the description, preferably the top one? So I made a video where I simulated the final 6 races of the season 100 times to determine who statistically is most likely to win the Drivers' Championship. And obviously the other battles there. Is Nico Hulkenberg going to beat Lance Stroll? Is Yuki Tsunoda going to come out of nowhere and do it? How can Alex Albon do? Will Colapinto get in front of the likes of Ocon or Albon or Gasly? We'll have to wait and see. Click that link in the description and I will see you there. Or if I see you live tomorrow during the sprint race itself, that'd be absolutely amazing as well. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in a bit.